It's Kilobyte here, and this is a real owner review of my 2019 Mazda MX-5 Miata RF. They're available, this is the RF, they're also available in the soft top, and we get a little bit of sun. The RF and the ST are very similar. The soft top is about 100 pounds lighter than the RF, but other than that, options and stuff are pretty much the same. In case you're curious, the Mustang GT there is what I'm used to driving. So if you're wondering what my background is, it's mostly muscle cars, fast cars in a straight line, lots of power. The RF is just a gorgeous car. The ST is nice too, but the lines in the RF are so nice. And the sun is going to pop out a little bit for us again. I am hoping some of this color is making it onto the recording. It's really, I found that even with a nice camera, the recording the pictures don't really do the color justice. Quality, it is Japanese made, and as in Japan, the build quality is really good. The material quality is I would say better than average. And Mazda is trying to be a more upscale version, more upscale manufacturer, and so they're trying to keep things more on the high end, and you can see that in some of the materials. But on the Miata, the key is that they want to keep the weight down. This has a naturally aspirated 4-cylinder, 2-liter. So no turbo, no supercharger, but it makes 181, that's right, 181 horsepower. The most horsepower of any Miata ever produced. And it's like 151 pounds of torque, I believe. The max horsepower, peak horsepower, is at 7,000 RPM. Red line is 75. And here's the engine. For the 2019, they have made a pretty major engine changes. They've lightened the internals, pistons, connecting rods, that type of thing. They have increased the size of the valves, the ports, especially the exhaust side. So because the internals were lightened, it likes to rev quicker, less mass to turn, and the increase in the flow obviously means more horsepower, and it can actually support the higher RPM. And as you can see here on the inside, it has a 6-speed manual transmission. You can also get MX-5s in a 6-speed automatic transmission with the paddle shifters. Now this is a 2-seat roadster, and it's very light. It's like 2,400 pounds, give or take 50, depending on whether you have a soft top or an RF, retractable fastback. The ride is actually not bad. Mazda made this for commuters, so the average person, that is what it is designed for. They obviously want to maximize sales. So if you're someone who wants to race, especially like autocross, even track, it's going to be a little light. It does have roll. I do wish that they had put stronger anti-roll bars in them, but you know, again, it's made for the masses. The spring and dampener setup is actually quite good. It works great for a daily driver. Again, if you're going to race, you'd probably want to stiffen it up a bit, try to get rid of some of that roll. And I honestly don't see a lot of dive in mine when I'm slamming on the brakes. It's nothing like the Mustang was before I updated the suspension on it. But if you're racing, again, you may notice more dive on the stock suspension. So very briefly, there are 3 models of the MX-5. There is the Sport, that's the base model, and it's only available in the soft top. And it has, it is very base. It's got 16-inch wheels, very limited on the interior luxuries. Then there's the Club. The one I have is a Club, and all Clubs have a limited slip differential and Bilstein shocks. So if you're looking at racing, you probably want to focus on the Club. Now they do have the keyless entry. So the keyless entry is nice. You just keep it in the frame, push a button to lock and unlock. As long as you have the key within a few feet of that door, it will work. The same goes with the trunk. There is actually, believe it or not, right here is a button to open the trunk. But again, you have to have your key on you and within just a few feet so it picks it up. The Club, you can get the appearance package. That's the black seal on the bottom, and then the splitter on the front, and there's a little bit on the back as well, as you can see. And looks pretty good in my opinion. You can also get the BBS Brembo package. These are 17-inch BBS wheels that are 7 inches wide. If you get the BBS Brembo package, the back brakes are just painted red. They're stock back brakes. On the front, though, you get the Brembos. And then there's also the BBS Brembo Recaro seat package. Now that one gets you the wheels, the brakes, and the Recaro seats. We'll talk about the seats here in a minute, give you those options. The other thing is, if you get the Recaro seats on the Club, you get the black roof, hand-painted black roof. Some people like it, some people don't. I happen to like it. And the third option is the GT, Grand Touring. It does not come with the limited slip differential on the base model. It does have the keyless entry. It has a tech package you can get. It's got lane keep warning, city braking, smart city braking, auto climate control, navigation, traffic sign recognition. So that's your more luxurious one. And the GT also has an option for the called GTS. Now it has the Clubs come with the shock tower brace that you saw under the hood. Well, the GTS includes that. It includes the limited slip differential, so you can in fact get a LSD on the GT, and the Bilstein shocks. And the GT includes the black roof. Another thing on the GT is available is the appearance package. You can in fact get that as an option on the GT. Now one thing with the NDs, that's the 2016 and newer MX-5 Miatas, the paint colors have been primarily shades of gray. With the exception of the red, they were all literally shades of gray. Now in 18, they changed the blue from reflex blue, which was a gray blue, to eternal blue, which is a little less gray. It's a little brighter. So at least you got a couple. And then the 30th anniversary edition is supposed to be coming out in the spring, perhaps. And it's supposed to be, are you ready for this? Orange. That's right, orange. And I have an opinion on that. I think it's going to be very similar to the Soul Red Crystal, only an orange, and it actually looks better than I thought it would from what I have seen. Again, it's very unofficial. They've not released other than the fact that orange has been leaked. One of the things that annoys me the most is this thin water-based paint. Right there. Right there, rock chips. 1,800 miles, and I have rock chips. Now, if you're going to get your paint protection film, which I have, you might want to roll it on the hood. Of course, mine hit right in the spots where there wasn't the PPF. And another example, rock chip. This is the Soul Red, seems to be one of the worst for the rock chips, maybe because of the process, I don't know. My wife has the machine gray and it's not had near the issues, but it's on a CX-9, of which the front is almost all the plastic bumper. But it did, and they don't show as bad. And you can see here the infamous butt camera. It is almost the worst possible place they could have put it, but it is what it is. And I will note here that the emblems are normally chrome. I just have mine plasti-dipped, and that's a stubby antenna that I put on to replace the whip antenna, so that those are not stock. And here you can get a, hopefully it's showing up, it's really overcast today, but that's the stock exhaust, very plain, 2 tailpipe, and it's supposed to be sound better than the ND1s, but they did change the muffler, the axle back, as they call them now, but it's really quiet. It's still really quiet. I've got another one. I've got an aftermarket muffler ordered, and hopefully will be here within a week. All right, let's talk seats. Since we have the Recaros right here, these are the Recaros. This is the top end seats, only available on the clubs. I will say they are very, very nice. They are in fact the reason that I got the BBS and the Brembos, was for these seats. If it wasn't for these seats, I would have got the GTS and put my own aftermarket wheels and brakes on it, assuming I went with the brakes. So the GTs normally come with a leather seat, which is pretty nice. It's quite comfortable. And the Club and the Sport come with a cloth seat. They are actually all based on the same frame, but they're made differently with differing amounts of bolstering. Something else I should point out on the Brembos here, this is the passenger side, and the bolstering is not as high on the bottom of the seat as it is over on the driver's side. Hopefully that shows in the video. And the other thing is, there's not a lot of room getting in and out, especially with that additional bolstering. Getting in and out of the GT The GTS specifically is the other one I was looking at was much easier. And on these Recaros, you can't just spin. You have to lift yourself up to move your, in order to spin, unless you want to, wear your seats out. Here is a look at the gauges. And they have been upgraded a little bit from what I understand. Specifically, the left gauge is a nicer gauge than the on the ND1. This would be an ND2. As you can see, I've got 1,896 miles on mine, and in that 1,891 miles, I have averaged 35.6 miles per gallon. My current is 36.7 for the whole 65 miles. Now, you might have heard when I first showed the gauges, I had done a cold start, and you may have heard the racket. That is from the sound tube. I absolutely despise the sound tube on a 4-cylinder, including this one, because it sounds tinny to me. I plan on removing the sound tube when I get my exhaust. Now, once the engine has idled down, and actually when you're on the road, you get some decent sound through the sound tube, but I can't stand the startup noise with the sound tube. Now, the big change on the 19, the really important change, it's not about the power, not at all. I'll tell you what it is. It's the steering wheel telescoping, and I'm trying to get back as far as I can so you can see it. If you release the lever down underneath on the left, yes, you can raise and lower it. You could do that before, but now I can bring it in towards me 30 millimeters. Right there. That's huge. As someone with long legs, that was huge. I can actually have the seat back and pull the steering wheel back towards me so that I can reach it without having to have straight arms. On the GT, you get the automatic climate control, so you can set on this dial the number you want and it'll adjust the temperature. And that's great, it works fine. On the Club and the Sport though, you don't have that. And it's like the old style, you've got your where you want the air to come out. You push for defrost. That's back defrost, by the way, rear defrost. And you've got your fan, obviously turning it up and down or off, and push for recirculate. Now over here you got your temperature control. There is normally a very obnoxious passenger side airbag off warning light here. This has been replaced because it was truly obnoxious, and I have updated the USB hub. I really should take the orange piece out of the SD card slot because I don't have one. But from the factory, as of now, you get the Mazda Connect. I'm not going to go through everything, but you can control your phone. You can do your music. Of course, it's got XM, Sirius XM, as you can tell by that little shark fin on the trunk that some people seem to hate. You have applications. All right, GT has nav. I do not. This is a Club. And it's got your settings. Pretty basic, functional. They are controlled by the, if you're not moving, I should say, you can touch these. But if you're moving, I think it's 5 miles an hour or faster, you have to use the command knobs. And they are actually designed pretty well. They're similar to BMW's. You have your volume control, push to mute, favorites, go back, nav, home, music. Now, I have upgraded to CarPlay, which you can do yourself or you can pay your dealer to do. There's two ways to get to it, and you do have to have your phone installed. And this little cubby, this is a 10R phone, and it fits perfectly there. I've got a little short lightning cable that works fine as long as you're not like racing. If you start doing too spirited driving, it might slide, but it's pretty good. So I can press, so you can press the CarPlay button to bring up CarPlay, or you can press and hold the home button and that will open CarPlay. The other thing, press the home button, that'll take you to the main CarPlay. If I press and hold the home button, it'll take me back to Mazda's infotainment system. I will say when you're in CarPlay, nav will take you to whatever navigation, whatever maps app you're wanting to use, and music will take you to whatever music app you were using. If you were using like XM, you had it on CarPlay and you were listening to XM, pushing this will take it to XM. Pushing this will take it back to like Apple Maps. So from that standpoint, they did a pretty good job on the integration, but you don't get it from the factory. You either pay your dealer like $400 to install it, or you can do it yourself. I do have videos on that. Let's talk about the reverse camera for just a minute. It is located, as we talk about in another part of this video, it's located on the bumper, so it's a little, could be better looking. But even then, you can see in looking at the camera here that it's very low. It's a lot lower than on many cars and certainly on SUVs. And when you're backing up, my wife said it's like trying to drive a little remote control car. It works, but the angle is very low, so it's kind of awkward. And the markings, they don't turn with the car, which I don't actually have a problem with, but they are much wider than the actual car. Quality isn't fantastic. You can, you see the outline of the bumper, the little inset, which is unfortunate, but it does work. It serves its purpose. It does not have backup sensors, so I can back up and it will never beep. I'll try not to actually hit the car behind me. It will never beep. I am much closer than, I really feel comfortable, and there's no beeps. Now it does have side cross traffic sensors, so at least there's that. I should also mention that it does have, so the Club and the GT both have heated seats, and the RF obviously has a top up and down. Now, as far as the top up and down on the RF, it only works when you're going, I believe 6 miles per hour is the fastest you can be going for it to work, and you have to hold the button and it takes 13 seconds. If you exceed 6 miles an hour, it will stop and beep at you. Don't try to do this when you're at a stoplight. You're gonna get caught, guaranteed. It happened to me on my test drive. There's smart top modules you can buy that will allow you to push the button once, open it, push the button the other way, close it without having to hold it, and it can increase the miles per hour in which you're traveling. This is all stuff that you can do aftermarket. I have a video on installing mine. And speaking of aftermarket, there's a fair aftermarket for the Miata. It's not like the Mustang, but it's pretty good. It's not like it in that there's less manufacturers and less options, but there are some, as you can, you got the smart top module. There's various exhausts out there. There are tunes. Now the 19 has a different ECU. It has not been tuned yet. There are no tunes available for the 19 at the time of this video. There's a lot of suspensions options out there, coilovers, dampeners, springs, anti-roll bars, all that. There's a lot of options. It comes with a 9-speaker Bose sound system on the GT and the Club, and I'll be most primarily talking about the RF. As you can see the perforations in this headrest. Those are speakers. They're very handy when you're talking on the phone. So this is my daily driver, and it actually works fine as a daily driver if you don't need space. Space is the big thing that you're missing on the MX-5s. Obviously, it's a 2-seat roadster, so I don't think that's something that you complain about, because you're not going to get a lot of space in a 2-seat roadster. So here's your trunk. As you can see, not a lot of space. There's a little bit, but not a lot. You can put, a couple carry-ons in there. You can put probably a small suitcase, but it's got to fit in there. And no jack or spare tire. You've got a kit to re-air your tire if it goes flat. It's all about the weight savings, and probably a little money there too. Inside storage. Well, not much. Right here, center console. That's your glove box. There's not one over there. Behind the passenger seat, there's a little cubby hole. Now there is a very convenient hat holder. As you know, we all need newsboy hats if we have a Roadster. It's a cup holder. Actually, you can put your cup holders there as well, but I use mine to hold my hat. There is not a cubby spot behind the driver's seat on the RF. There is a little center storage compartment for your microfiber towel and a set of earplugs and a little coin holder. Second biggest challenge is getting in and out of it, especially with those Recaros. With the leather seats, I don't think it's an issue, but with the Recaros, again, you can't really spin, and it has the higher bolstering. It is tiny, tiny. And you can adjust your steering wheel if need be, but I don't have to do that to get in and out. It's just I have a certain process that I follow that makes it work. On the interstate, it's fun. It works plenty well. Is it powerful? No, it is not a powerful car. 0 to 60 is like 5.7 seconds. That's over a second slower than my Mustang. Is it adequate? Yeah, it's adequate. It's I would call it peppy. The higher red line is nice, but you generally don't need it on just day-to-day driving. It does, I've heard people say that the torque is lower than the 16 to 18 on the low end, low RPM. I will say that when I first got it, it had no power below 2,000 RPM. None. I mean, it was a dog. And I was like, okay, now yeah, I would agree with people. But since from about 1,000 to 1,500 miles, it started breaking in, and I noticed that the torque, the low end torque, is much better than it was before it broke in, before it started the breaking in. Now, I would say at about 1,500 is my minimum RPM in which I try to drive. Now, obviously, spirited, I'll have that much higher. For just cruising, I try to keep it over 1,500, and I don't think, in my opinion, that it has, if it has any less than the ND1, it's so little that I honestly don't think that the average person could tell it. The MX-5 really shines on the back roads. I will often get off of the interstate and take some back roads that have some nice twisties on them. It takes me longer to get home, but it's so much fun, and that's where this thing, that is what this thing was made for. I am hoping in a couple months to make it over to Tail of the Dragon in East Tennessee and do some driving there. That's going to be a blast. So the Miata is all about smiles per gallon. It really is. It's such a fun car. Comparing it to like my Mustang, does not have half of the power that my Mustang has. It's much slower, but it is so much more engaging than the Mustang. And the Mustang's a great car, don't get me wrong, but this thing is, it's just so fun, and there's nothing else like it on the market at this price. There just isn't. And being able to have that top down, preferably in the warm sunny day, and just cruising some back roads, it's just a blast. So I hope this was helpful, quite detailed, and might be a little long, but I wanted to make sure I got all the information in there. And if you did find it helpful, please like, comment, subscribe, and I will try to answer any questions that I can answer. And God bless.